Smacker Miles, good friend of the show, was with us all during football season a year ago. She's left us. She's flown the coop, just left us in her dust, in her wake. She moves on to different things. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing awesome. So fill everybody in on what – so I guess the last that we all saw you publicly was doing a lot of work with Kansas and their media department there. So fill us in. What's life like?
I got a job in Dallas, which I was kind of living between Kansas and Dallas even when I was in Kansas. So I'm back in Dallas full time now because I got a job with D210 Sports, which is kind of like local news. It runs on a local news station, but I don't actually work at the station, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I just get to go cover the events, and that's been a lot of fun.
So, I mean, it seems like on social media you're at a different arena every night. You're covering basically, right? I mean, you're covering the Mavs, you're covering XFL, you're covering college. I mean, you're doing all sports.
It's so much fun. I love the different sports and just the perspective that you can gain from one sport to another. And obviously, college and pro are so different, but it's been a great experience so far.
All right, give me some thoughts. Let's go to what happened this weekend in the XFL. And I think everybody knows your perspective, right? I mean, having been around the college game for so long and then also the NFL, and now you're working, covering the XFL. Immediate impressions watching that whole product this weekend from the XFL.
I wasn't expecting it to be that good at all. When I was on the way to Arlington, I expected to park and walk into the game very quickly without an issue, and for Arlington to be dead, because if you have ever been to Arlington, Texas, it's where the Rangers and the Dallas Cowboys play. But that side of the interstate in Arlington, if there's nothing going on, it can literally be vacant. So I just kind of expected it to be like that, and there was traffic getting off the interstate and everything, and people were tailgating for it and had a Renegades apparel on, and I was just like, wow, maybe I'm not as much of a sports person as I thought, because already having the apparel before game one was pretty impressive to me. And then the actual atmosphere in the game, they did a really good job with the music, and the coverage in general in game was good. So they made it lively inside there, but that's obviously more the production crew. But
Right.
I was very impressed.
So I'm guessing, did you watch any of the games on Saturday? So you were covering the game on Sunday. Did you watch any of the games on Saturday on TV?
I watched bits and pieces, yeah.
Okay. So you do have the perspective of having watched on TV and attended the game, which I'm assuming most people here listening haven't attended an XFL game. Maybe we got some Dallas listeners who did. But So give me the difference from someone who maybe watched some of it on TV on Saturday or Sunday and actually being there in the venue.
I think that they're doing a good job with both and doing a really good job making them different. Like you said, that's the point. But from the TV, you get to learn a lot about football, and I love that part of it, the breakdowns and the immediate questions and hearing play calls and stuff like that. And it's kind of nice because they're not taking themselves quite as seriously, in the sense that obviously they're not quite as nervous about people stealing plays or whatever you would get from the NFL. And then as far as being at the game, it's just fun to watch, and obviously just seeing the different rules, and I guess I was doing a lot of thinking about judging how the coaches had, I guess, taken in the rules to make their coaching decisions week one, because it'll be really interesting how that changes, like with the 1, 2, and 3 point, after a touchdown. Because, I mean, going in, I had no idea. And then, for example, in the Renegades game, it was 2 touchdowns, and they both went for the 2-point conversion.
Nope, there was not a single 3-point attempt all weekend.
No.
Now, part of that might have been that none of the games were particularly close, right? Where you score a touchdown, is there any need to go for 3? That might be a need-based thing. But so my next question was going to be, so obviously you have the perspective of having lived around a coach your whole life, so you sometimes look at things through a different prism. You mentioned the PATs. What else in the game stood out?
I hate to be critical, but my only piece of criticism is just the special teams. They're not allowing people to make contact until after the ball has been caught on kickoff. And I think one of the most transient positions will be special teams, because you have guys that could have done a different sport in college. I mean, I'm sure there's a guy out there that ran the 100 and did triple jump, and he wants to go out for football now. And I think that's really cool. And that's one of the benefits of having somewhat of a minor league system. But without being able to judge their ability to get off a block and to make a block full speed and those sorts of things, I think we're going to find that it'll be harder for scouts to really know. And if they wanted, I mean, let's think about it. The scouts' whole point is to really know. So if you're trying to judge someone who has been in a typical college system where they did a normal special team situation, you're more likely to feel confident in reporting that to the coaches. So that part of it was a little bit interesting. And then obviously going for two, I watched it and I was like, oh, and then I started thinking about why they would have gone for two instead of one or three. And obviously it's the RPO craze and the idea that that's a good distance for a run or a pass play. And obviously when you're going from the two, there's going to be a lot of run plays. And when you're going from the 10, there's going to be a lot of pass plays. So
No,
it
go
was
ahead. Sorry.
interesting seeing that because like I like after I saw it, I was like, nah, like you should have come up with that. Come on.
but so that is like, that's a really good perspective. So do you think that what you watched more resembles what the NFL looks like or more resembles what you see in college?
That's a good one. It didn't really compare to either. And then obviously like with two forward passes, there's going to be they're going to be literally looking for receivers that are good at throwing the ball, which is not the case in the NFL. And they're also going to be looking at some different routes. So that's very different from either. And then the like post game or the extra time, overtime would be completely different than either. I know the catch rule is more like college. It's 1 foot in. So, and they're saying it's going really fast, and it did go faster time-wise, but it felt like football time-wise to me. So I like that part of it, though. You know, you want to give fans something to come for and not make it too quick. So I think it's really different than both, but I think that's kind of the point, like to add some excitement and give fans a reason to have the XFL have a pro over college or the NFL, I guess.
Smacker Miles is with us on Twitter at Smacker Miles. She works for D210 Sports there in Dallas, so she was covering the XFL this weekend there in Dallas. So what do you think is something that either college or the NFL will eventually adopt? Like, just seeing, like, it's one thing, right? It's one thing to read these nuanced things on paper and what might happen in the rule book, and then you see it and you go, like you were talking about with the conversions, like, I should have thought of that. Like, what do you think, having seen it now, is something that might actually work at all levels of football?
I mean, they'll definitely judge the excitement from fans because obviously the NFL is straight up a business, and then we all know college is also a business. So I think just seeing what people like, and I think they'll want to do more exposure on like the play calls and stuff like that in game, but it's more a matter of college and the NFL allowing that. So, I mean, I don't know a single college or NFL coach that would want that. So I can't really say like, oh yeah, it's going that way. But I do think the one obvious one, and it's kind of a boring one, is just the length of the games. Because if XFL is the shortest and then NFL and then college is pretty long, I think we're all seeing people complain about the health, and I don't mean complain like it's wrong, but just the health of the players being very valued in a good way. I think the more coaches are encouraged to cut practice time down, the more we do that, eventually the coaches are going to say, well, if you're expecting us to cut practice time and you're cutting out all these practices and you're cutting out live sections of practices, then can we cut out part of the game? Because that's just the reality for the coaches. If you want to have your guys ready and you want them to be able to hit hard for 4 quarters, you want to practice them pretty hard. So I think eventually the coaches are going to come together and say, it's not that we really want the game to be shorter, but with the way we're practicing, that makes more sense. Yeah.
I know a certain Big 12 coach that doesn't really like the media watching his team do calisthenics. Can you imagine that certain coach having cameras in on play calls and whatnot?
There's a lot of questionable health things, Matt. You know, like the kid could have had a sore ankle or like a 6-week ankle sprain, and you'll find out on Saturday.
You've been trained well, clearly. All right, last thing. In this, so you've mentioned a couple of times the length of the games. Mm-hmm. And I am interested. I just want to clarify, because it's one thing that like college and pro talk about, like they want to be able to keep the pace going. And the XFL clearly has done that. That's been their aim with their rules to shorten the game. But if I'm hearing you correctly, it almost sounds like you said it's shorter, but it didn't really feel shorter. Like, mm-hmm. is that what you felt?
Yeah.
I guess, and Smack, the reason, sort of the reason I kind of ask is like, I've always maintained, okay, we can tweak this rule here or there, and it might shorten the game by 7 minutes. But like, does anybody really care if is it 3 hours and 3 minutes or 3 hours and 10 minutes? Like,
exactly. They shortened the halftime by 10 minutes, so it's a 10-minute halftime, and then the game still went over 3 hours. And I'm all for it. I love football, and I know that fans are paying a lot of money to have that experience, so I'm fine with it. But as far as there being a different amount of time, I expected to get there and there to be, 12 minutes on the clock for the first quarter or something, and it's not like that. It's 15-minute quarters, and then they just cut halftime by 10 minutes, and then it's a 25-second play clock, but it wasn't drastic. It didn't feel like it wasn't football.
Who's the best team in the XFL?
I don't know, but I really like the Battlehawks coach because he was getting his first head coaching opportunity, and he played in the NFL for 10 years, and he actually got to start coaching under Coach Stoops. So it was a fun story to see him have his first win and against someone that he really, really respects. So I like that part of it, that the sports stories that tug on your heart and the opportunities that are being given are the same regardless of what level it's at, whether it's a college guy getting his first start or NFL or XFL. So I love opportunity, and I think with opportunity, there's optimism, and that's something I love to be a part of.
Did you see him get doused with the seltzer? You're talking about it was Coach Hayes from
Jonathan Hayes.
So they're sponsored. I'm gonna talk about this later too. They're sponsored by like Bud Light Seltzer. Paul, can you put this up on the screen? So they go in the locker room and he crack. By the way, respect isn't cracking open a Bud Light Seltzer, which I mean, whatever. But then they're like all spraying him with seltzer. Somebody crushes him with a water bottle too. It's amazing. I mean, what's next?
Did you see that they talked about the Renegades quarterback having an Instagram modeling career? I was like, wow, we went there in the middle of the game. Yeah, like they pulled up his picture and everything, and Coach Stoops even commented. I was like, that is not NFL. Can you imagine Coach Belichick saying something about an Instagram modeling career?
I can't imagine Bill Belichick commenting on anything.
Exactly.
Like literally anything. So.
Exactly.
Smacker, it's always fun to catch up. Glad you're doing well. Enjoy the rest of the XFL season. We'll check in again soon, all right?
Absolutely.
All
Thanks,
right.
Matt.
We'll see you later. That's Smacker Miles.